Today, I want to talk about the concept of love, but not in the way you might expect. This isn't a typical romance or a dramatic tale. Instead, it's about the profound difference between the love we are taught and the love we discover. For years, I believed love was a complicated transaction, a system of debts and expectations, because that was the model my family provided me with.
This topic is important because many of us carry skewed definitions of love from our upbringing. These definitions can shape our relationships, our self-worth, and our happiness in ways we don't even realize. Understanding that there are healthier, more genuine forms of connection is the first step toward healing and building a more fulfilling life. This is more than just an emotional story. It's a shared human experience.
In this video, I will share a specific, deeply personal encounter that completely altered my perception of love. I'll detail a conversation I had with a stranger on a public bus and explain the simple yet powerful lessons she imparted without even trying. I won't promise a magical solution, but I will offer a new perspective that you may find useful in your own journey of understanding. I'm not a psychologist or a relationship expert. My only credential is my own experience. I am simply someone who felt lost in a sea of confusing family dynamics and found an anchor in an unexpected place. What I'm sharing comes from years of reflection on that single, transformative moment and how it provided a new compass for navigating my own life and relationships with others. That day started like any other, gray and unremarkable. I was sitting on the bus, lost in my own thoughts, replaying the latest episode of our ongoing family drama in my head. I felt invisible, both to the world and to the people who were supposed to care for me the most. I had no idea that this mundane commute was about to become the most important journey of my life. The air on the bus was thick with the scent of rain and the unspoken weariness of a dozen commuters. I was feeling particularly heavy that afternoon, weighed down by the familiar feeling that my worth was conditional. In my family, affection was often a reward for compliance or a tool for manipulation. This dynamic had created a subtle but persistent ache, a loneliness that thrived even in a crowded room. I chose a window seat, watching the city blur past through the rain-streaked glass. The rhythmic thump of the windshield wipers was the only soundtrack to my internal turmoil. Public spaces can often amplify feelings of isolation, and that bus felt like a perfect metaphor for my life. Moving forward on a predetermined path, surrounded by people, yet completely and utterly alone in my own emotional world. Then she got on. She was an older woman, probably in her late 70s, with a calm presence that seemed to create a small pocket of stillness around her. She wasn't remarkable in any grand way, but there was a quiet dignity in her posture and a gentle warmth in her eyes that immediately stood out against the backdrop of the gloomy day. She sat in the seat across the aisle from me. If my family's love was a detailed legal contract, full of clauses, expectations, and penalties for breaches, then what I was unknowingly searching for was a poem. I yearned for something that didn't need to be analyzed or justified, something that simply existed for its own sake. I was tired of trying to earn affection and just wanted to feel a sense of genuine, unearned connection. She didn't look at me at first. She simply settled in, placing a worn tote bag on her lap. But then she opened her bag, pulled out a small, neatly wrapped sandwich, and broke it in half. She held one half out to a young, disheveled man sleeping near the front, who had been ignored by everyone else. He didn't even wake up. But the gesture itself was a thunderclap in my silent world. After the man didn't stir, she simply placed the half sandwich beside him and then caught my eye. She offered me a small, knowing smile, completely devoid of judgment or expectation. It wasn't a smile that asked for anything in return. It was a simple acknowledgement of a shared moment, a tiny beacon of kindness in the anonymous space of the bus. This was the beginning of our unspoken love story.
That simple, unprompted act of generosity struck me deeply. It was a stark contrast to the transactional nature of affection I was accustomed to. In my world, a gift always came with strings attached. A favor always had a future cost. Her kindness was a pure, unconditional offering, given freely to a complete stranger without any possibility of reward, and it completely disarmed me. Breaking a pattern of a lifetime, I spoke first. I just said that was a very kind thing to do. She turned to me, her expression soft, and replied, "We all get hungry sometimes, dear." Her voice was as gentle as her smile. This simple exchange opened a door. Our conversation wasn't about deep secrets or dramatic confessions. It was about the weather, the city, and the simple observations of a life well lived.
It's important to state the limitations of this encounter. This woman didn't solve my problems or give me a step-by-step guide to fixing my life. The power of our interaction wasn't in some grand revelation, but in its profound simplicity. It was a brief, authentic connection that demonstrated a different way of being in the world, a different way of showing up for other people, even for a moment. As we talked, she shared a small piece of her own past, a fragment of dark storytelling about losing her husband years ago. She didn't tell it with sadness, but with a quiet sense of gratitude for the time they had. She said, "Love isn't about holding on forever. It's about how well you care for someone while they're with you." That single idea was about to reframe my entire world. Her first lesson was hidden in her story about her late husband. She spoke of how she learned to truly see him, not just as her partner, but as a separate person with his own fears and dreams. She explained that true kindness is born from paying attention. This was a revolutionary idea for me, as I was used to being seen only for the role I played within the family drama. Her second lesson was about the value of quiet presence. She mentioned how some of her most cherished memories were just sitting in comfortable silence with her husband. No words needed. This challenged my belief that love required constant communication and grand gestures to be real. She taught me that simply being present and available for another person could be the most powerful expression of care and respect. The third and most impactful lesson was that love is an active choice, not a passive feeling or a burdensome obligation. Her choice to be kind to the man on the bus came from the same place as her choice to love her husband each day. She explained that you choose to see the good, you choose to be gentle, you choose to offer support. This reframed love as an act of will, empowering and liberating. These weren't delivered as a lecture. They were just pieces of her own emotional story, woven into casual conversation. She wasn't trying to teach me a great life lesson. She was simply sharing her truth. The power was in the authenticity of her experience, a narrative of love, loss, and ultimately a quiet redemption found in continuing to care for the world around her, one small act at a time. As I saw my stop approaching, a wave of panic washed over me. This profound sense of clarity felt so fragile. How could I possibly hold on to this new understanding of love once she was gone? This feeling, this person, felt like the answer to a question I had been afraid to ask, and now the answer was about to get off at the next stop and walk out of my life forever. When my stop came, we exchanged one last smile. "Have a good day," she said simply. I thanked her, my throat tight with unspoken emotion. I never got her name, and she never asked for mine. The anonymity of the encounter was crucial. It made her lesson a gift with no possibility of reciprocation, a pure act of connection that I could only pay forward, not pay back. For the first time, I went home and tried to practice the art of seeing. I watched my mother not as the critical figure from my internal narrative, but as a woman who seemed tired and overwhelmed. I saw my brother not as my rival, but as someone struggling with his own insecurities. This shift in perspective didn't fix our family trauma, but it began to dissolve my own resentment. I started to embrace silence instead of trying to fill it. During tense family dinners, instead of arguing or defending myself, I would simply listen. This often had a surprising effect, de-escalating conflicts before they began. This small change created pockets of peace where none had existed before. If you found a small change can make a big difference, I'd be interested to read about it in the comments. This wasn't an overnight transformation. It was a slow, often difficult process of unlearning and redemption. There were days I fell back into old patterns. The core issues within my family didn't magically disappear. However, my internal foundation had shifted. I was no longer seeking their validation because I was learning how to validate myself through small, consistent acts of kindness and self-respect.
This personal journey, sparked by a stranger, made me realize that my education in love was just beginning. It prompted me to seek out other sources of wisdom, to understand the mechanics of healthy relationships and emotional intelligence. I understood that while her lesson was the catalyst, the ongoing work of building a new map for my heart was now my own responsibility to continue.
So, how can you apply this? The first practical step is incredibly simple. Start small. Choose to perform one small, unconditional act of kindness each day. Buy a coffee for the person behind you. Give a genuine compliment, or simply offer a warm smile to a stranger. It's not about the gesture itself, but about training your mind to see opportunities for connection instead of transaction. If you're looking to explore these concepts further, I've found books on nonviolent communication and emotional intelligence to be incredibly helpful. Resources like those by Brené Brown or Marshall Rosenberg can provide a framework for the feelings that this kind of encounter unearths. They aren't quick fixes, but they are excellent tools for continuing the journey of understanding yourself and others on a deeper level.
It's crucial to be realistic about results. Changing deeply ingrained beliefs about love takes time and consistent effort. The goal isn't to create a perfect, conflict-free life. The true measure of progress is a growing sense of inner peace, stronger personal boundaries, and the ability to engage with others, even difficult family, from a place of compassion rather than reactivity. This is the real life lesson.
I'm genuinely curious to hear from you. Has a brief encounter with a stranger ever left a lasting impact on your life? Please share your own emotional story in the comments below. Reading about each other's experiences is a powerful reminder that we are all navigating these complex human emotions together, and your story might be the one someone else needs to hear today. Ultimately, the most profound love story I've ever known wasn't about romance. It was a 20-minute bus ride with a woman whose name I'll never know. She gave me a new definition of love, not as something you get, but as something you choose to give. And that choice, available to all of us in every small moment, has the power to change everything.